How's it going,
It's
dude?
okay, buddy. Well, luckily, my love for you is unconditional, so you're okay.
Hey, are you glad you're not still on the George Washington?
I wish I was. I mean, I don't say it would take a lot for me to say I wish I was still in the Navy. But if you told me that we're going out to relieve the Lincoln and had a chance to go out there and do the job, I would do it.
Sounds like the guys on
What do
the
you what
Lincoln would be happy to see you.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I would love. It's so funny you mentioned that, brother. I would love to talk about that today because I got some distinct thoughts about. I've been pretty fired up the last 2 days reading some of the articles in the paper, or not on paper. I sound so old there, like online, just very frustrating. And I had a couple conversations with a few folks. Actually, someone that I know has been communicating, is good friends with the CO on the Lincoln, and has been communicating with that skipper. And it's exactly what I thought. Where there's one or two stories that come out and the media just runs with it. They're so lazy. They just keep regurgitating the same stuff and talking about, the conditions and it's terrible and whatnot. And, everyone's miserable. And then the next day, Senator Blumenthal comes out from Connecticut and he's like, the Navy owes me an answer and I want to know what's going on. It's like, dude, like, first of all, if you're going to talk about it, go visit the ship. That's one. If you care that much, you should fly out there and go visit the ship and see it for yourself. Two, there's 51 to 5,200 people on board the ship. The chances that a few are going to want to jump off are probably pretty high, especially after what they've been through. Like, that's just the reality of it. They're pissed and they're frustrated and they're tired. But to say like the ship's not taking care of them, or it's and logistically, I think they're having some challenges too, getting what they need and when they need it. So there's a lot of different factors that play into it. It's just so frustrating when people start commenting about the ship doesn't care, the leadership doesn't care, they're not taking care of the sailors. That's a flat out lie and it's reckless. It's just really, really frustrating.
Jay, what were you going to say?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me with the Lincoln is that it sounds like it's mainly driven by the fact that their deployment got extended by at least 3 months. So they've been on station, whatever, for 9 months with
Yeah.
no port
In
call,
combat.
which that sucks, as we all
Yeah.
know.
In
Yeah.
combat.
But
Right.
that's what the Navy needs you to do. So but then the other thing I was gonna say is I can't believe anybody on the Abraham Lincoln would ever complain about anything, given that incredibly great time we all had on the Lincoln back in
That's
'93.
Do they
that's
know
fair,
about
Schulte. That's
spades? You get a deck of cards, you're good.
as long as Ready Room 3 is open all night long, and you
And
can play
there's
spades and you
crackling oak
have
brand and
and
war
crack on
grid.
oak brand, you should be good, right? So no, I mean, obviously, don't want to minimize what the sailors are doing. They're such war fighters, man, getting after it and all that they're doing right now. I feel for having been in that position, when people are saying reckless comments and they don't really know what's going on. It's just very frustrating to see, knowing how hard that crew is working, the leadership, the chief's mess and the officers and the skipper and the XO and the CMC, how hard they're working to take care of them and then also do the rest of their job, which is incredibly difficult. It breaks my heart that like they have to deal with that kind of traffic now and that noise when they're trying to do the mission and meet the mission and do everything they have to do to represent the United States and protect our allies. It's just frustrating.
Question for you though. Can you separate kind of the macro frustration with the Navy overall from the micro, which in this case would be what's actually going on board the carrier? Like, are you seeing are you saying you can't find any fault with how the Navy itself handle it? I can understand the position of saying the way that folks on the Lincoln handling it is the right way, but like this seems like they're overarching logistic issues that could probably have been to handle a little better.
100%, brother. I'm not defending. I'm not saying that there's no ownership or culpability on the Navy's part and the government's part for what's going on, right? I mean, we have a conflict that's going on that really has no end in sight right now, and so what is the plan for that? Is there a plan? I mean, certainly you can go to that and question that. The logistics. I mean, you would hope that there was a plan in place to make sure that they're getting what they need when they need it. And clearly, we've fallen short of making sure that that was executed. If it was planned, a certain, and again, having been a part of that machine, I know that there was a plan. It's just obviously some things have gone sideways and has resulted in them not necessarily getting what they need. So yeah, I can separate the two and certainly hold some people accountable and say, hey, there's got to be better answers. It's just I just get frustrated feeling for the leaders on board that ship that I know are, it makes it sound, the media articles that I read makes it sound as if the ship's miserable. No one, they're not taking care of the sailors. And it's like, that's just not reality, right? That's just not the truth. And I know it's not the truth because I've lived it and I've seen it. And so I just wish that before people start saying those kind of things, like there's more investigation, going on and looking into it and then making a determination vice just off the cuff saying it. Because once, you can't put Jack back in the box, dude. Once he's out, he's out. And that's kind of what's happened here. Now everyone's running with it and it's just frustrating. So
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I guess, the Navy on ships, there's always a disproportionate amount of, so the captain, you're responsible for everything, right? But you can't literally
Mhm.
oversee every single thing, including, as you well know, these people's personal lives. That's, all right. Well, that was an interesting conversation for somebody who's been in the actual shit.
Billy, are you sure you don't want to ask Schultze first about the Brewers' big comeback win in the ninth inning last night? You sure you don't want to talk about that?
I'm going to get, you can ask that. One of the questions was going to be which it's funny that our three teams are pretty much tied atop the NL. Who's going to come out of the NL? Who do you think?
Schultze?
I mean, I'll take the Brewers, but as we all know, they don't do well in the playoffs. They're the regular season team. So if they end up with the 1 seed or whatever baseball calls it, that's like winning the World Series for a Brewers fan. Then you can just kind
Did
of
they
wait
win it?
for that.
What seed were they last year? 2?
No, they were 1 last year,
They were one last year too.
Okay.
and
Well,
but their offense has basically disappeared in the last couple weeks. So they got swept by the Padres. They barely had any offense last night against the Dodgers, but pitching kind of saved them.
shit. I
I
was going to
think
take the
if
Brewers too, but now that you've taken them, and now I don't know what to say. It's not going to be the Braves. The Braves have no pitchers. They got Chris Sale, and that's it. I mean, they got nothing. So I don't think they're not set up for the postseason. The Dodgers have 9 good starters. So too easy to say the
okay, I was
Dodgers,
actually
though.
I was actually gonna pick no, I was actually gonna pick the Brewers. I just have a feeling. I think the Dodgers are tired right now. I think it's two consecutive years of, going deep in the playoffs and, tough World Series last year. And they just don't look the same, especially as we get closer to the end. Now, I don't want to overreact. I mean, and getting I tell you what, Schultz, if you guys had picked up Scooble, I don't know what you had to give up, but man, I would have given it
Yeah,
up just
well,
to get
comparing what the Dodgers gave up, the Brewers could have easily, and I know they were trying to get him, and they're of course not going to part with their top because they, like the Dodgers, have a really great farm system, and they're not going to give up their top guys, but they were going to give up, I think, guys in the same range. Like the Dodgers gave up, maybe it was one guy who was like a top 100 minor leaguer, and the Brewers had a similar package from what I understand. But, you know, I don't know any of that for sure, but I know, it came as no surprise that he went to the Dodgers, but I didn't realize Shohei was hurt and not pitching right now,
yeah,
but
he has
I
a
assume he'll be back for the postseason pitching,
I
but
don't know, brother. That left knee, man, it apparently really bothers him when he pitches, and so I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. And I mean, obviously, I think getting Scooble and getting Snell back and Glass now supposed to come back as well. So they might not even honestly need Shohei, but certainly you'd like to have him
Yeah.
available.
Well,
I
and
just
that's
have a
kind of what
feeling.
happened last year with the Dodgers. All their pitchers were hurt for the second half of the
Yeah,
season,
yeah,
and they
yeah. And
dominated.
Snell came back the other night, had a good hit, 10 strikeouts in 6 innings. I think the Brewers I got a feeling about them this year. I just think it's like it's just kind of karma. I feel it. Like
Yeah.
they're just that team, and talking about throwing a wrench in the whole, the big market teams, and it's unfair. Like the Brewers win it, and
Well,
then
that's
everyone's
the
like,
other thing, behind all of this, whatever's happening this season is this whole pending lockout for next year. And it seems, from everything I've read, it's not going to get resolved without a lockout. And it's like the owners
I
are
think
the
they're
ones
just
that
going to take
want
the
the
whole
salary
season.
cap. but the players are so adamantly against the salary cap, which is kind of ironic to put the fans and the owners on the same side of the labor dispute. Usually it's, it's the other way around, but I don't know. I mean, I certainly would never say I'm on the side of the owners in any pro sport. So I don't know. And the thing is, it's so different from the NFL, which is the main sport I follow, that you can't really compare the two. And
No,
So
I think
we're all gonna pick the Brewers, and then but we all know deep down it's gonna be the Dodgers. That seems like a cop out, but
that's
in
fair.
places we don't like to talk about, Billy, we know it's going to be the Dodgers. So yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I do think it's interesting. Again, though, on the labor dispute, Schulte, I think the two best records in baseball right now belong to the Tampa Bay
Yep.
Rays and the Brewers. It's just amazing that those talk about
Yeah.
two franchises that are just well run and figure it out, man. Those two franchises are.
Well, yeah, and and the flip side to that is, you could say, any team could do the same thing they're doing, because when you or at least you profess that you can't afford to pay the Shoeis and the Scoobles of the world, that you can develop a great farm system. You can get these guys in the draft, develop them, and then play in their, arguably not quite their prime, but in their early to mid 20s. And then when they're up for their huge contract, you let them walk and you bring in the next guy. And, you know, so, I mean, it obviously works at least for the regular season, and that model, and it's been working great for the Brewers for a long time
and
now,
let's face it, the
but they haven't really had any success.
playoffs are a crapshoot anyway. It's not like LA. LA could easily have lost
Yeah.
a couple of those series last year. They could. Who were
But
they?
yeah,
Were they down to the
yeah.
Phillies or something early, and then they could easily have lost the World Series. Baseball playoffs a crapshoot. Okay, here's my next question. You're the You're the GM of your NFL team. You have to draft a quarterback from the pool of the following three quarterbacks. The pool is Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, and Brock Purdy. Who you taking? I'm assuming I know who everyone will take. I'm assuming everybody takes their own guy.
Yeah, but are we assuming everyone's going to be healthy for the whole season?
Healthy, completely healthy, same contracts they currently have. Same, or they all have the same contract. They all are perfectly healthy. Who you taking?
I'll start. I'd take Purdy.
Really?
I love
You?
Dak. You guys know I'm a Dak apologist, but I got to try something different because it hasn't worked in the 10 years he's been there. And Purdy, I've seen Purdy when healthy can take him team to the Super Bowl and arguably could have won that Super Bowl. So I think I'd love to see what Purdy could do with some of the offensive talent that we have on the Cowboys.
Hmm. I was not expecting that, but that's a very reasoned answer, and that's basically my exact thing I was going to say is I've seen Purdy do it in the playoffs, so I take
Yep.
Purdy as well.
Yep.
And he's not younger than he's probably the same age as Jordan Love, but Dak is what he's getting in his mid-30s now.
Dak's 32.
That's
I
not
think
too
maybe
old.
close to being 33.
Yeah.
No, he's early 30s. I mean, he's been in the league 10 years. That's crazy. I mean, but yeah, he's still early 30s.
Okay. What about you, Schulte?
Yeah, I'll take Love. Although he and Purdy are pretty comparable in my mind, but I'm just going with my guy, and this is only his third year as a full-time starter now, and arguably, I mean, yeah, very arguably, he might have a better receiving core this year, even though they got rid of Dobbs and Wicks. But they had just too many mouths to feed last year, and this year, and of course, I fall into the same trap as everybody else. Like, oh my gosh, these guys look so good in the preseason and training camp, and then you get to an actual game, and they're the same guys they always were. But I think Matthew Golden he'll get so many more targets this year.
I saw some highlights of him making cuts and stuff, and how smoothly he was moving. So people are projecting big things for him. It seems like.
Yeah, that's one hype train I can get on board, because I mean, he was that guy last year, but they just had too many other guys that were getting the ball instead of
Well,
him.
they can
So
develop receivers. That's one thing for sure that Green Bay can do. Jay seems like he's not going to do super good on the nostalgia tour, but I feel like I wanted to look back because talking to my 17-year-old about potentially going to the Naval Academy and just thinking about what I was doing around that time, and I was older than you guys, but I was thinking back, and a couple of things hit me. One is like, man, we did a lot. I did a lot of shit in 1990. I was enlisted in the Navy and lived in Idaho. And then, like, sometime in like February or March, I found out I got a ROTC scholarship. And then sometime in April, I found out I got a Naval Academy appointment. And sometime in May, I went on a road trip to San Francisco to see a Madonna concert. Like, are kids doing that now? I don't know if that's happening now. People are going on big time road trips to see Madonna. So I was thinking back to, like, what was going on that year. Like, to me, things stood out. And maybe I'm overly nostalgic and associate songs and TV shows and things like that with things that are going on at times in my life. But do you, like, Gotcha, what do you remember from, I mean, clearly you were at NAPS at the start of 1990 and you're graduating NAPS. Any songs or TV shows, what reminds you of that time, like just before going to the USNA?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, music wise, I was a top 40 guy. I was Casey Kasem top 40 dude. I didn't listen to any rock and roll or anything. So I can't really remember any songs that stuck with. It wasn't until I got to the academy and then I met Harry, obviously my roommate and best friend, and he introduced me to Rush and Supertramp and some pretty quality music. When I was at Naps, I remember Papa John's pizza, which I had never had before. And I remember Hunt for Red October. I remember seeing Hunt for Red October. Now I don't remember if that was late in the fall of '89 or it was early in '90, but I remember specifically like walking off the base in Newport and then walking to a movie theater to go see that movie with a few of the guys that were in my company or my platoon. So those are a couple of things that I remember about that time. And then of course sports, right?
Take it with
Niners, Cowboys was all starting to kind of blow up, and Cowboys were still struggling, obviously, but was kind of leading into, like, it looked like some things were changing, and with
well,
Jimmy
they went
Johnson coming
1
in,
and
there might
15.
be some hope
Didn't they go 1
at
and
the
15
academy.
in
They went
89?
one.
And
We were
and
plebes.
drafted Troy Aikman. Yeah.
Yeah, we were plebes when they went 1-15 because I remember the only game they won, whatever the building was that had the hockey rink where you could skate,
Dahlgren.
Dahlgren, right? I remember sitting in Dahlgren as a plebe, watching the Cowboys beat the Redskins, and that was their only win that year. They were 1-15, but they already hired Johnson, so there was some kind of hope, like, hey, it's going to get better at some point. So I definitely remember that. And the Lakers were kind of coming out of there. I was a big, obviously a big Lakers fan with my dad, and they were kind of coming out of there, that dominating, and end of the Magic Johnson, Kareem, kind of that group. They were starting to kind of go a little bit down, I think, 'cause I think the Pistons were coming around at that point. So I definitely, those are some things I remember.
Yeah, the Cowboys sucked. The 49ers won the Super Bowl by 45 points in 1990. It was a big
Yeah.
deal because, the enlisted guys. One thing when I was enlisted, it feels like something like 75% of enlisted guys are Vikings fans. And that didn't happen at the academy. 0 Viking fans I've known since then. So I don't know why that sticks out, but it's constantly people from Minnesota talking shit about how good the Vikings are. But yeah, that was big for me. It was when I was enlisted. I lived in a house with 5 guys in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and Twin Peaks came out, the TV show, and we had to watch that shit religiously every Monday night when it was on. And we were so into Twin Peaks. And I remember getting to the academy and having my sponsor family tape it for me. And then I stopped going to my sponsor family and only ever watched like 1 episode. And then, you know, Plebe Summer is kind of like a time bomb. You don't remember anything, but in the fall, Vanilla Ice and Ice Ice Baby, that was everywhere. That was the shit, dude. I had a Mustang when I went back for Thanksgiving break, rolling my 5.0. Doesn't get much better than that. So
It's
I'm trying
every
to,
time I hear it on the radio, I was
Well,
like, I can't
allow me to
not listen to it.
allow me to contrast that story with my experience of So 1990, when I'm still in high school, we had one TV in our house and we didn't have cable. So we had ABC, NBC, and CBS and an antenna on the roof of our house. And so I watched whatever my parents were watching, which was usually the news. We always watched the local news, the national news, then the local news again. And then after that, I'd usually do homework or whatever. So, but my biggest pop culture connection from that time is I'll never forget. It seemed like at least probably 10 times on a Friday or Saturday night, I ended up at one friend's house and there would be 3 or 4 of us and we would just watch Top Gun on an old VCR tape.
There you go, Shelty.
So you can't discount the Top Gun influence on my. I mean, I had already knew I was going to the Naval Academy at that point, but
So you would watch Top Gun
Chelsea, that's all.
repeatedly on
Chelsea,
Friday
that,
nights with guys?
yes,
No girls in
Chelsea, that's
this.
all you
Wait,
need
I
is
did.
some
Well,
news, some
it
local
wasn't
news.
until it was towards the end of my senior year that I actually like started drinking a little bit,
Mm.
and even then, I mean, aside from one night getting hammered at homecoming, I would have 1 or 2 beers and with friends and we'd hang out and
So let me ask you this:
Chelsea,
when
that's
you and your male friends on Friday night watching Top
it
Gun
wasn't
for the
all
fifth.
male friends. There were a couple of female friends
Oh,
too
okay,
in
well
there.
that ruined it because I was going to ask if you guys were focused mostly on the volleyball scene because you went to Navy, you played volleyball. Like, there's a lot going on there.
No, I
hey,
do remember cringing at that volleyball scene though, because it's so knowing that Tom Cruise is like 5'3" or
Yeah.
whatever, and then
Chili.
just how they
Hey,
filmed that was like
Chili.
absurd.
When Chelsea watched the movie and the volleyball scene, and then the next time he was on the court, and the other team's like, "Why are those guys so they're glistening, dude? Do they got body oil on? Like, what are they doing?
Jay and
He's got some dog
Freed
tags on."
lathering up.
No, I mean, we couldn't play volleyball in Wisconsin until summer, but man, that was in the like 30 days between or less between my high school graduation was like June 17th or something. But even like after school, I had a car, I had a Geo Metro or a Geo Prism or something like that. It's a little hatchback, but it
Sweet.
was awesome because not everybody had a car and I had free use of it. So, but I would go literally every single day. I had a buddy who was a year younger than me. We would go play beach volleyball at one of like 4 or 5 different parks that had courts. And that was my life every day. Go drive there, play volleyball against whoever was there. Sometimes there was no good competition, but we knew where to go, where the better players were. And there were a couple of places we'd go and just get our asses handed to us every time. But that's the best experience if you want to get better. And then, and that was it. Then I shipped off. Was it July 2nd,
Yeah, I think it was
1990?
like
It's
yeah.
I think it's the last. I think it's the last Thursday in June. So if you graduated June 17th, you might have only played like 3 beach volleyball games because
No, but
Yeah,
as soon as the weather's warm, we were playing after school and whatever. But
yeah, because we
the
reported like July 2nd. I mean, I just remember it was like the first or second day when we had the July 4th out on the field, the fireworks. So we'd
yeah,
only been there a couple days. So Chelsea probably had a couple weeks almost.
yeah, well, I
yeah.
remember now I Day is the last Thursday in June. I don't know if that would have been the case
Okay.
for us because I
It,
had that same
it
year. I
wasn't.
looked it up. I looked the
No.
dates up because I was trying to figure out because I know the first time I ever saw you, I feel like it was a Sunday. I was almost sure the 4th of July was on a Sunday because I feel like that's when I saw you walking on the field.
Yeah. If you go to McGarvey's, they actually have a picture of our I Day in front of Bancroft Hall. And what is that, Tecumseh Court right there? And it's
Yeah.
I swear it says like July 2nd of 1990.
Well, they may
Yeah,
have
yeah,
changed. They may have
right.
recently changed it, especially
Yeah.
now that
Yeah.
there's a lot of late graduations. But
Yeah,
that's
they need time to check everyone's testosterone levels now.
Hunt for Red October, Gautreaux. Yeah, I feel like that was. I looked this up because one thing I was talking to Stance about was we used to. I don't know if you guys did this, but we would go watch movies at the Annapolis Mall on Saturday with our Liberty. That's what we did every Saturday we could. I was trying to remember what movies we watched, and it wasn't Hunt for Red October, I think, because it came out a year early. So that would have been. That would have been. I think I saw that in Idaho.
Yeah,
Good
I'm pretty
times.
sure it was like either fall. It was either fall of '89 or I think it was fall of '89 actually, because I think it was still during football season. So
Did you
That's a
know you?
good step
Go ahead.
too, because the movie's based on Tom Clancy books, but I was a pretty avid reader when I was a kid, and I read every single Tom Clancy book probably at least 3 times before any of the movies came out, and so that was a good one. That was one of those movies too where I actually think I could think of 2 movies where the movie was actually better than the book in how it ended, but, there's that and The Firm, that John Grisham book.
But yeah, I don't remember a big difference, but wait, so which one? Hunt for Red October and The Firm, you feel like have better endings than
Yeah,
the literary one?
yeah,
What
and
were the
I haven't read The Firm in forever, but I went back a few years ago, I reread Hunt for Red October, and I was actually surprised. It just wasn't as good as I remember it being when I was a kid. Maybe because I've seen the movie 700 times since then, but
it
it was
actually was
good.
released March 2nd of 1990.
so you'd have been at the well, it was before plebe year, but yeah, just before. Yeah. I was in
Hmm.
Idaho when
Yep.
that happened for sure then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever have an encounter with Tom Clancy at the academy?
No.
No.
Because, he would go
Our
on those he would show up and go on the when there were ships, hanging out in the harbor or whatever, he
Yeah.
would go out there. So several people would be on one of the boats going to and from whatever you call it.
Mhm.
Several people met him. What about the filming of Patriot games? Did you bump into Harrison
Yeah.
Ford?
So I had, the classroom that they show Harrison Ford teaching in, and Samuel L. Jackson comes in and gives him some fake award or whatever. I had history class in that exact same classroom, and I remember several times like just walking from class to class and seeing Harrison Ford walking around campus going to do another shoot somewhere or whatever. And that was kind of cool. That guy's also very short. You don't
Schultz, are you sure
realize.
that wasn't the class that you fell asleep in for leadership? That might have been the class you're talking about.
I don't think there was a class I didn't fall asleep in. So
I can't sleep in class. God, could you sleep in class?
No, I mean, I would definitely like doze a little bit, but I could never really like not like Schultz was the master. I mean, even as a plebe, as a freshman, he was a master.
yeah, I did
Like
get
stuff that
better, I will say. But
I remember seeing Harrison Ford walking to class one day. I was like, that's Han Solo over there. That was pretty
there you
cool.
go,
That was a
dude.
good college experience. The All right,
and
go
those
ahead,
are
Gotcha. I'll
all
cut you off.
those are all
No,
good
no,
movies too.
good movies. It's actually I love the fact that we're talking about these because I'm always thinking about movies that I can watch with the kids, because they're 12, 10, and 8 now. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to like pick ones that I'm not afraid to pick a movie that's got, a little R content, like maybe some
Yeah.
words and whatnot, but trying to be smart about it. And like Hunt for October would be a great film to show them. I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
benign and just a great story. And I think they could follow it for the most part. So
Yeah.
they're pretty cool.
What's the
Yeah.
last movie you showed him?
Actually played Ferris Bueller's Day Off for them.
That's a
That's a
great
good
They
movie.
one.
That
they
that's
loved
it's
it.
great.
They're
Yeah.
yeah, they're cracking up, man. They loved it. So, I mean,
We did
you
that for
forget sometimes.
Addison's a few years ago. That stands the test of time.
It really does. It's funny, like watching it again. One, you kind of forget some of the words. It's a little spicy in a couple spots, but not too bad. The kids are fine. I mean, they've heard it from their mother and myself both. But watching Matthew Broderick, he does a really good job. I mean, like it's hard like to talk to the camera and do what he did in that movie. Because he was pretty young, I think, when he made it. I mean, that was like late '80s, I think, right? Wasn't that? And
It's
that was like still in high.
86. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was still
86.
in high school.
wasn't that the first movie where they broke the fourth wall, whatever they call it, where he's talking directly to the camera? That was like
Probably
I
one of
remember
the
that being a
first.
really big deal at the time.
One of the
You
first,
know,
and
Schulte, you're probably right, brother. And I thought like he did such a good job of it. Like it was like really entertaining. So it's kind of cool to watch that again and watch that with them. So, but yeah,
but
that was the last one.
his career, I think he was headed for big things, and then unfortunately, he was driving a car. I think it was in Ireland or somewhere, and killed a couple of people driving the wrong way, which wasn't used to. He wasn't used to driving there because they drive on the opposite side of the road, and so I think that kind of derailed what was a real promising career. He still had a nice career, but that's a bummer to
And
have
married Sarah Jessica Parker, so who can complain about that?
Hmm.
a very classic. One of the movies I 100% did see in 1990 with Stantz was L.A. Story. Young Sarah Jessica Parker was smoking hot, without question.
I have
Without
not seen
question.
that one.
Hey, you mentioned Matthew Broderick real quick. I wanted to mention one thing about him, Chili, since we brought him up. So remember, wasn't it War Games? That was a movie. I think that was like early 80s, I
Love
want to
that
84?
say.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty
84 or
epic,
earlier.
like
Yeah.
at the time, pretty
And was
epic
that
movie.
was
But
Ali Sheedy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
another, yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. I never
But he
actually
was,
saw War Games. We were talking about watching it recently, but I didn't actually ever see it, I don't think.
It's good. You should watch it.
it's good. And at the time, it was very like, it was just, I don't know, it was groundbreaking, but pretty crazy considering what was going on and the whole premise or the plot. But recently, and, Billy, you talked about like maybe his career got, sidetracked a little bit. And no doubt, and probably because of what you mentioned, the accident. But he was in a movie that April and I watched a couple years ago on Netflix and was called Painkiller. And it's about the opioid crisis. It's the family that basically were the drivers behind the mainstream, like getting that into the mainstream
Yeah.
with the OxyContin. Yeah. And dude, if you haven't seen that, like incredible. I want to say there's like 7 or 8 episodes, maybe.
Was it
It was
on
like a
HBO?
docuseries. So it was on Netflix. So it was based on the true story, but it's like they're acting. It's not a documentary, right? It's actually like a show or shows. And it's really powerful because every episode opens with a family member, a legitimate family member out in the real world talking about someone they lost because of their drug addiction to that. And then it kind of walks you through this family and how they developed it and then how it got out into the mainstream and how they just kept pushing it and kept pushing the addiction that they knew people would have to it and then of course what it did to society as a whole. So he's really good in it. I mean, doesn't he's like the patriarch and he does a
The
phenomenal.
Sackler family or whatever?
Sacklers, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sackler family who apparently, and I did a little research after we watched it, but they billions and billions of dollars, and they had, even like Smithsonian buildings in DC and whatnot, and they took their names off of, and it's just the family obviously was disgraced after everything that happened.
Yeah.
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 So
I
if you're
have
looking
not
to
seen that.
watch a
Maybe I'll check
Matthew
it out.
Broderick, check it out. It's worth it. It's definitely
Well,
worth the investment. If you're looking for a good show to watch, it's worth it.
did you guys watch Succession?
Some of it, not all.
No,
Cameron, Alan Ruck is very, very funny in
Yeah.
Succession. Very funny
Yeah,
as the loser brother. He cracks me up. But yeah,
That was my nickname in high school, by the way, was Cameron, because everyone thought I looked exactly like that guy in Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
really?
which was not flattering at the time.
Schulte, I have to be honest, brother.
Well,
When
he's
I
like a
watched it with the kids, there was a couple mannerisms that I saw, and I was like, it reminds me of my boy Schulte. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you.
See?
He was a young gun,
funny.
right? Wasn't Alan Ruck in Young Guns? So if he was a young gun, that's a compliment.
Fair.
Had not seen Young Guns. I don't think I've ever seen Young Guns. It's too bad I didn't know that.
You were too busy watching War Games to watch Young Guns?
What was it? It wasn't Emilio Estevez, was it? Was he in Young Guns? Who was in Young Guns? Was it
He was in
Yeah,
there.
he was in Young
Lou
Guns.
Diamond Phillips, Kiefer Sutherland, I
Lou
think.
Diamond
All those.
Phillips?
all those kind of dirtbaggy dudes. But yeah,
They're
good
the
stuff.
next generation of outsiders, right? Yeah.
Basically, that was a good movie. I like that movie. What y'all got? Anybody got anything else?
No, I'm good, buddy.
Nope.
As always, man, love you guys. Appreciate the time. Getting a chance to
Love you
talk to you guys.
guys. Peace out.
Yeah, love you guys.
Good hang. Talk to you
Peace.
later. Bye.
Okay, buddy.